Hey, I'm Marina.
And I'm Emily.
And I've seen everything in the Sex and the City empire 10,000 times.
And I'm starting fresh.
So I'll be woman-splaining the show.
And I'm along for the ride.
But there's a twist. We're starting with And Just Like That and working our way back to the beginning.
So in other words, we're watching it backwards and in high heels.
This is City and the Sex. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm glad you made it back. And just like
on
that,
episode 2, and we are exhausted.
We are dying. For And Just Like That, season 2, episode 2. Emily, you catching on to the formula now? Is the formula crystal clear?
I'm starting to get the hang of this. I will say, I mean, I'm almost like knocked over on water. I also want to say I might short circuit while we're talking about this. Like I realized this episode 2, I think I'm realizing the formula. I think I'm getting the hang of this. I understand more of what we talked about last time, which was like, I understand why this show is so uniquely difficult to watch. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it is hard to get through. And afterwards, I was like, I'm going to cleanse my palate. I'm going to watch something funny and have a good time. I'm going to switch over and watch some Righteous Gemstones. And I'm going to like, that was how I was going to like decompress from this event. And by the time I got to the end of this episode, honestly, Marina, like, I'm not kidding. I was like, I actually can't watch TV. I think this has like ruined the genre and medium of TV for me. Like, it's a very anti-television television show. And I'm going to leave it at that and explain more when we get to Miranda's plot, because there's a couple scenes there as an example where I'm like, this is anti-television in a way that like is oppressive to me. Anyway, but so that's my thoughts about this one. Is that a cheery way to start?
Yeah. No, it's super positive, super cheery. For me, what I've been doing is I've been treating this second viewing for me as an anthropology. Wow. I was just saying anthropology study, arrest me. As a
Is that not what you were going to say? That because that also works.
Oh my God. I thought about the store again. Arrest me. Okay. As a sociological exam. Wow. It's just knocking me off.
This is what it does. It makes it hard to I swear. It's like, it is work to watch this show. I feel tired.
It is work.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I am drained. It is. I've been trying to treat it as a scientific study. So I've been like writing down the scenes and color coding the highlighting, and that's been helping me kind of separate, if you will, me from it. And also goes to my further point, which is that this episode feels like nothing like the end of this season. Like, this episode 2 doesn't feel like it fits into this season at all with the trajectory that we're on. So
I can't wait to learn what that means.
Well, let's get into it. The real deal.
The
visceral hatred coming out of the both of us.
I know.
Episode title, please see our rant about the Met Ball, where it's like, again, the real just didn't want to be fucking slammed. And honestly, they would have been as a brand. So
I completely respect absolutely that they have good lawyers, is all I'm saying. And their lawyers know what's up. Their lawyers saw Peloton and they're like, we're not getting involved in this. We're not being associated with this. So that was a good move. But yeah. For listeners, if there's a pause that long, it's because Marina and I are fuming.
Fuming. Yeah. We're not enjoying our presence. We're just fuming.
Yeah, exactly. We're not enjoying our presence.
This episode, I want to start with Carrie, and then kind of that absorbs into Charlotte's plot line. But Carrie, we start the episode. She's reading some advertising copy for her podcast, and she gets to one about vaginal dryness, and she just can't do it. Which, first of all, promo code VAG in the City is the best thing I've ever heard.
What is her complaint? That's awesome.
What is her complaint? And the big thing here is that even though Carrie is a sex columnist, she's secretly a prude. And it's kind of because Sarah Jessica Parker is a prude. And so every season she becomes more and more prudish, and it makes less and less sense. And I get that vaginal dryness is weird, like, or like is a weird thing to talk about, but I feel like they're just trying to make gold out of straw here a little bit, is what it feels
Yeah.
like to me. It feels very forced.
100%. I mean, again, it's like, she was given kind of a sitcom-y thing of like, here is a nothing problem that we're just going to give you so you can just like have this. That I mean, it's interesting to hear you say that about her character, because I was going to say that this feels very out of character for what I would have assumed. Like, I didn't know that she was a prude in this way. Look, the copy maybe is a little cheesy or whatever, but then like have some fun with it. You're a writer. Like, aren't you supposed to be sort of witty, and you have these one-liners, and you're, just like put your personality in it, whatever. And I don't know, just saying vagina is that much of a problem for you that you're really not in the right line of work.
Yeah, it was something about saying vagina, and also just like ewy, vaginal dryness, which, sorry, but like, I've seen a couple seasons of Grace and Frankie, which is the Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin Netflix show, which is a show about women of a certain age having sex that works. Highly recommend. And like in that show, for example, they develop a vibrator that kind of stabilizes your hand if you're shaky when you get older, which is like really fucking cool. And again, it's just like, it's weird to me. Like one could so easily be like a vibrator for old people who shake. Ew. Like I can see why somebody would say that. And what I love about Grace and Frankie is that they embrace it, and they're like, no, women want this. Like, I love that. The fact that Carrie's like, ew, vaginal dryness. It's like, yeah, some women deal with that.
Yeah.
It's
like it's an actual thing. This isn't a made up thing.
I feel like it should have been a made up thing. Like swamp ass or something. Well, swamp ass is very real, but you get my point. Like, I wish it was like some weird made up weird vaginal thing, like sweaty vag or something. Like, then I would have been like, okay, that's weird. But vaginal dryness is like, why kick people when they're down? That was my thought.
I think you were absolutely right that this would have worked if it was something that was like really, it was made up and was like extra dumb. And it actually comes off as like not even just prudish, but like kind of mean. Like the way that she sort of was kind of mocking of it. I'm like, well, okay. It's not like it's like a condition she needs to be sensitive about or whatever. It's just like, I don't know what. I'm sorry. Like, get off your high horse. You know what I mean? It's like she's so like rude about it. I felt like she was kind of rude. The producer is also a little bit rude in the way that she comes in and is literally like, "Read it, bitch." But like, I just felt like it was a little like, I'm sorry. Who do you think you are? Because I mean, now that I know that she's not this big famous star, I'm like, you can read an ad read about vaginal dryness, honey. You're gonna be fine.
Call
the
it a
brand's
day.
Gonna be fine.
I do have to say the podcast director is iconic. I do love when she comes and yells at her. So then Gabriel from MI7 goes over to Carrie's house, and after they have sex, he insists that they write this copy for vaginal dryness. And he says, I downloaded Final Draft for this, which, okay, you don't need Final Draft to write some ad copy. You could have just used Microsoft Word.
We're not like Notepad app.
We're not writing a play. Like, we're not writing a screenplay. Like, it's fine. So that made me laugh because it's just like, it's doing the opposite of the 2021 thing where it's like, we're an insider. We know how scripts work, but like, not at all though, because, and in fact, Carrie, when she does go work on the script, she does it in Microsoft Word.
So what are we?
So that made me
for no
laugh.
Poor Franklin the turtle / Gabriel from MI6. MI7.
The fact that Gabriel from MI6 has to say wet ass pussy too in like another horrific joke, that's not funny. That's very uncomfortable. I was like, this man deserves an Emmy
for suffering,
for being in these 2 episodes. He deserves
a consolation prize.
Fucking Emmy. Then Carrie, he gets tired and he falls asleep, and then Carrie writes the monologue. It's just like so anticlimactic. And then basically Carrie shows that Gabriel from MI7 show up at work the next day. And the podcast director lady's like, well, you didn't read the copy. And now the whole podcast studio is shut down.
Which is not how things go. Surprise, surprise. The entire health of your show and podcast company does not depend on your host reading ad copy for like a vaginal cream.
On one ad copy, I feel like, so when I watched this the first time, my brain auto-corrected and said like, oh, she just said that to say like, you know, you should read ad copy, but like we're being shut down for other reasons. Instead, watching it on second viewing, I was like, no. My brain like filled in the gap.
Yeah.
As a brain does. Because when you look at the text,
tell me exactly
I'm talking
what
about the
was
text.
The text here. What was said?
Capital T.
No, I know, but like
exact text.
This was not subtext. This was not implied. This was not something you and I have filled in. What was the actual facts that happened? What were the actual facts?
Listening to the text the second time, she literally says something along the lines that are like, you know, you should just read the ad copy next time because we're shutting down. Like there's no there. The way that the text is written, it makes it seem like they did shut down because of one ad read, which is crazy. If anything, first of all, it's so funny because, again, from the writers' podcast, they wanted to be done with this podcast plot. They were done with Gabriel.
Really?
They were done with the podcast plot. And it's so crazy to me where it's like, why'd you have to shut down the whole podcast studio? It feels so excessive. Like, why not just say, oh, Carrie, like, if you don't read the ad, first of all, she agreed to read the vaginal dryness. Like Gabriel said, I'll get her to read it. So there's no reason to believe that she wasn't going to read it. One. Also, like 24 hours passed. So you're not going to get fired for not reading an ad copy in 24 hours. That is crazy. And then it's like, why not just shut down her show? Be like, if your main sponsor is vaginal dryness. So if you don't read these, like you can't have a show. It's like, why does the whole thing, it's like, I feel like they couldn't come up with a reason for the podcast studio to shut down for real.
So they just were like, it says like the studio was bought by someone else. And so they've canceled this show, which is like, again, implies that there have been other things going on. Like the show was not getting good ratings or something. But then if they just followed it up with, you should have read the ad copy, that to me implies that that was the problem. Like that was what was not bringing in the money, which also is confusing because aren't they paid already? Like the money doesn't come to your bank account when you speak on air about vaginal cream. You know what I mean? It's like an agreement has already been made where they have paid for your ad and they are expecting you to read one.
It's just so forced. This whole thing seems so forced for their end goal, which is to just delete Gabriel from the show and delete the podcast, which could have been so much easier than what this like tangled web they wove.
Yes.
Of this like weird 100%. Cancellation. I also hate the and just like that of like, and I freed up my entire week, which like, God, Franklin the turtle.
I know
exactly.
God bless him. You don't feel it. And like,
thank God.
Also, the implication I should say of if in this insano world where her refusal to read the copy by a certain amount of time has somehow shut down the studio or canceled their show, that also means that she's responsible for these people all losing their jobs. And that's not how she acts the scene at the end. It's all sort of like, oh, well, I freed up my schedule. Haha. And like, as not acting as if everyone else just like lost their jobs.
I'm like, even Gabriel, I get that they're both, I do like that they both kind of amicably are like, well, we don't want to do this anymore. But like that man is unemployed. I get that she has loads of money, so she doesn't care that one of her revenue streams is gone.
Right. He's a podcast producer.
Like,
he's making like, I'm sorry, under 100K in New York City.
Yeah. It's just so weird. Again, it's like Michael Patrick King. I think he has friends who are podcast producers who but are like rich. And so he's like, every podcast producer is just like, or he's like, producers are just rich. And it's like, that's not the case.
How life works out here. We're fighting for our lives. We, as in the population that is not Michael Patrick King, not us, you and I, but we are also.
He's doing fine. But anyway, that's the Carrie plot. I hate it, but at least Gabriel.
Yeah, we're done with that, and we're done with this podcast too. I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to listen to people doing dumb voicemails and her giving stupid advice. Like I just don't need it.
Again, a direct response to season 1 where they were like, "Oh, you didn't like the podcast? It's gone." Like, okay, fine. I'll take it. I want to go to Charlotte's plot line since it kind of dovetails with Carrie. So, Charlotte's daughter, Lily, comes to her. So Charlotte has 2 kids, Lily and Rock. Lily comes to her, and Lily has always been the like straight A student, the perfect child, and is a what's the word? Not avid piano player. A very like, into playing piano. Yeah, she's very talented at piano.
She plays piano often in her schedule.
Yes, she plays up. Yeah, that's a way of saying that. And I do love when she goes to the dad and the dad's like, "What do you want from the York Goldenblatt ATM?" That made me laugh. I thought that was a good line. I think Charlotte's husband, he's always been great in the show. He's fantastic. Here, he's kind of like,
he's just there
but I love him, and he's a gem. And she asks for a new keyboard because she wants to sing the song that's inside. And her parents are like, "You're going to have to earn money or figure out a way to buy your own keyboard," which is great. And so she sells all of her closet, which is made up of designer clothes that Charlotte has bought for her over the years. And she sells them to the shabby company that is The Real Deal instead of The Real. And they make a distinction that it's not The Real. The Real Deal is shadier. And I do love the drug dealer joke that she makes where she's like, it's like shadier and lower profile, just like a drug deal. And Anthony goes, "How many drug deals have you seen?"
Great line. Once again, Anthony.
Great line. Phenomenal. Again, Anthony.
Dragging us over the finish line.
Icon. And so Charlotte becomes really obsessed with getting one of the dresses back. And basically decides to go to the store and bully a random shopkeeper because she doesn't understand. Wait, but before she goes to the store, I forgot, we hear Lily's song first.
Okay.
Which, first of all, I want to call out another great Anthony line that happens at the dinner table where he says, I forget. Oh, I think it's when he's talking about if the guys are good enough for his bread brand, and he says something like "from tongue to taint," which is my new, like, put that on my gravestone. From
it's
tongue to taint.
Our new words. It won't actually be, but for our rose and thorn is the tongue and the taint. No, I'm kidding.
The tongue and the taint. Yeah, exactly. So we get to hear Lily's song, "The Power of Privilege."
Oh, good. It has a name. So I can find it on Spotify.
Oh, well, no, I'm just calling it "The Power of Privilege" because that's what the refrain was.
I love your delivery there of the word refrain.
Yeah, I'm trying to elevate us to a higher
I want to also say this was
here.
Good representation, though, of like spoiled kid on the Upper East Side. Like, I'm not going to name some names, but there are a lot of weirdly popular like indie artists who, unfortunately, they are very rich. I unfortunately know some of them who were in the neighborhood that I grew up in, and it blows my mind because I this is going to drive me crazy. Tori, our editor, can you bleep out the names that I'm about to say? Okay, thank you. There is this indie artist who I'll see every now and then as like an opening act for like bigger names, or I'll just see random people on Twitter like mention. Oh yeah, that's who was in my grades, and her dad's like is another one. Her dad, CEO, like she was a couple years below me. Like, they're all rich kids who got like piano lessons, and had an article in New York Magazine, and it was like meeting, like ready to sing, and it was like a profile on this girl. Like, if anyone is into watch like an indie artist, and part of the identity that appeals to you is that, oh, this is a person making music in their room, they want to make it big, and I want to support them, do some digging, because there's a good chance that their parents are funding a lot of this. And like, I also feel like in school there were girls like this, where it was like they would write songs exactly like this. I did text people, and I was like, Tori, you're gonna have to bleep this out because I'm gonna say a name again. I did text people, and I was like, oh my god, like I was just, there was so many specific people that I'm like, this represents that. So like, kudos to whoever wrote The Power of Privilege, because I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard this song. I've heard the song from prep school girls who perform at the bitter end. Tori, you can leave that one and don't bleep them out. We're going after the bitter end. Going after them. Because yeah, and if anyone wants to go check out that venue, you can probably see some prep school girls trying to get their career started there under a pseudonym. So that's my insider knowledge on what's happening here. What?
I like wanted your take so bad because first of all, on first viewing, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I think it's funny, but for some reason, the way that they're like pushing in on Charlotte makes it seem like it's really serious, which is like a weird dissonance for me, because I'm like, this is hilarious. I wrote in my notes, go off, queen. That's what I wrote. Because I was just like, it's like a rip off Taylor Swift.
I thought it was so
it feels
funny.
very
and
real.
It is so real. The pushing on Charlotte, leave that on the cutting room floor. That ruined the whole scene. Everything else would have been chef's kiss perfect.
I love the way that, for some reason, I can't. Harry. I love the way that Harry goes, oh god, like he says something when the song starts. It's so good. It's like they have this horrific, like derp music that they play during comedic scenes, and I was like, where is the derp music? This is comedy, capital C, capital G, comedy gold, and they're pushing it on Charlotte, being like, oh, her girl's rejecting her as a mom.
Yeah, I don't
care.
actually care about your crisis.
I was like, I feel like it's a good crisis, but it's like, I feel like this show doesn't know sometimes when things are funny and when things are serious. And they were like, this is serious. Like, dealing with your daughter rejecting what you've given her is serious, which it is. All moms go through that, I'm sure. But you can't make then the content this funny. I'm distracted.
You can't make it this funny to make your point. It's so true. It's like, it was so, it would have been perfect. It would have, it might still be. We'll see how when we get to the end of the episode, we do the Rose Thorn segment. Like, it might be my highlight still, but like, it would have easily been the highlight if we had just left out that Charlotte moment. And sure, we can explore that later, but not right now. This is so good. It's so funny. Also, like, it is hilarious to have a daughter of one of these characters, like these three insane women. It is so funny to have one of their daughters do this. Like, that's so perfect and real. To be like, nobody sees me, nobody understands me, I hate privilege, I hate having to be perfect and privileged all the time. Like, that is so funny in the universe of Sex in the City, where Carrie just like shut down an entire department of people and was like, my schedule's open, haha, and like walked off into the sunset. Like, that's perfect.
Yeah. Again, it's like, I just feel like they don't know when the good times are good. So then Charlotte goes to the Real Deal to bully the person, not understanding that the dress is probably in fucking Seattle by now. Like, they have this long, very intense bullying scene. Carrie goes with her. Well, I don't know what Sarah Jessica Parker's direction was in this scene, but I was like,
yes! Oh my god! I actually did write that in my notes. I have is Carrie high is a bullet point in my notepad.
Yes. Mine too. I was like, she seems so high, and it's like, I think she's trying to be funny, but it's like, Sarah Jessica's already funny. I feel like they were like, this scene is the crown jewel of comedy in this episode. and they like misfired on every
Mm-hmm.
cylinder for me. Like,
Yeah,
I
she
love
sees
the
the like
purse.
pigeon purse and she sees these boots she likes and she's like, it's just the way she delivers it, like to Marina's point. And also just like every time we cut back to this, she's like hugging them and like stroking them and kind of like smiling to herself. I don't know if it was just maybe Sarah Jessica Parker was high. I don't know what was going on. But you know what? I think maybe
I don't know what was
your
going
explanation
on.
makes the most sense. Is like maybe they wanted Carrie to be funny. And this was again them not
Yes.
understanding what is the funny thing and actively like not true. Because Carrie is like witty. She's not funny in like a kooky, you know what I mean? She's not like the Phoebe from Friends. She's not like silly and goofy. She's like she's funny because she has one-liners or
Yeah.
crazy things will happen to her. She's not funny because she says weird things about like the pigeon
Yes.
purse.
Yes, I agree. It was very weird. And like, again, I feel like they were just like, be funny. Charlotte's very funny. I do like the way that she attempts to bully this checkout woman and the checkout woman's having none of it. I do like that dynamic. A big problem I have with this show, though, that is exemplified in this plot is like they build all this tension and then they just release it in 2 seconds. Charlotte's just like, actually, I'm over it.
That's a good point. Yep.
Episode's over. And you're like, whoa, like you spent sleepless nights freaking out about this dress. You went in store in person. I'm expecting like them to bring the dress out, for them to do a tug of war on the dress, for the dress to rip. She has to spend double the amount of money because she has to pay for like emotional damage. Like, just think about like the comedy beat we could have gotten to. And then she could have been like, man, I looked crazy in there. I'm going crazy about this dress. I need to let my daughter go. Right? Like, whatever. Instead, she just is like, I don't even know what sets up
how does this
just
actually
being
end?
like, I think Carrie's like, oh, you don't want to be a meme. And then Carrie's like, we all outgrow things. Maybe I'm outgrowing Sex in the City, which like, what a slap in the face.
Yeah, ouch.
Like,
yeah,
slapped in the
this
face
is what I'm
again.
saying. Is this show is hostile. It is like it is in so many ways aggressively against the audience in every way, which fascinates me that you said that the writers were like, "We're going to do it right." I'm like, they are not. They are trying to destroy you psychologically. Also, that is definitely a thing a human has said to another human, which is, "Don't be a meme." That's what memes are. Again. He woke up from 2003. He doesn't know what memes are. I'm filing this away under Emily's cryogenic sleep theory.
It's also so funny because the correct sentence would be, you don't want to be a Karen.
Exactly.
That would be the correct sentence, not you don't want to be a meme. It's like, what? I don't know. But again, or maybe somebody videotapes her and she becomes a Karen. Like, I'm just saying, like, there's so many, there was no peak. There was just build up. And then Carrie has a chat with her about like, we all outgrow stuff. Maybe I outgrow Sex in the City. And then she just kind of is like, yeah, I was attached to this dress because it was the one she wore at her recital, but like, yeah, I'm not going to get it back and that's okay. And I was like, what? Okay, we have to get from point A to point B, I guess.
Who cares? So many things in the show are, who cares? It's over. And you're like, why did you torture me like this for 25 minutes just to wrap it up by saying, you know what? Who cares? And just like that, I repurposed my pain. And then the credits roll. Why would you do that to me?
It's over. I love your thing though. This show is, I totally agree with you. This show is actively hostile, but then it won't like double down. It'll just be like, all right, whatever, we're done. You're like, I'm sorry. What?
Sorry.
You just shoved me in a locker.
Yes,
it's over.
Exactly.
Like,
this show is shoving everyone into lockers and being like, this is what you wanted, right? You wanted this. This is what you wanted.
Yeah, you wanted this. Open wide, airplane's coming. Okay. Before I get to Miranda and Shay, I love how every episode we like start with Carrie because it's the most benign plot. And then we're like, we'll hold Miranda for the end because that's always the roller coaster. Want to get through some of the side characters first. So Seema goes to her hairdresser. He's sassy to her because she dumped the guy who's still living with his ex. And he's like, you put up red flags, you're too fucking picky, and that's why you're going to die alone.
Horrible thing to say.
Which,
like, it's not just like, oh, my friend said a hard
say.
truth that like it was in a sassy way, but I love him anyway. I'm like, no, that's actually a horrible thing to say. It's not true, and also that's just like mean. That guy sucks. Who is this guy? Was this a character from before that we know? Okay, well, there's no reason to see him again.
This man is only in this. No reason to see him again. He is only in this episode. And one thing I do love about this, though, is like as she storms out at the end, he just kind of like does like in the mirror and then starts drying his own hair.
An insane choice.
Was incredible. Which was incredible. I was like, this man is a character that is real in New York. She has a chat with Carrie where she's like, do I put up too many red flags? And Carrie's like, I don't know.
Carrie once again giving her signature non-advice.
Carrie giving, as usual, her fucking horrific advice. She goes back to the hairdresser first because she can't get a better hairdresser.
Yeah.
Which is dumb.
Stupid.
We are in New York fucking
and you have money coming out of your ass, please. Like you can find the salon of whatever you.
Yeah, like I don't buy for a second this one's going to dry bar. Like there are other people who can do good blowouts. Like it's not just this guy.
Horrible.
He explains the fact that he's hostile by just being like, I'm a hostile person, which again,
all right.
What? Favorite quote from this interaction is when he says, he's going through the advice he's given to the women. He's like, I told that one not to have kids. I told that one not to get bangs. And then he goes, I told that one, please get a lipo. Which kills me.
Once again, Michael Patrick King has visited us from the year 2003, where that joke would have landed.
The hairdresser plot is so weird because it's like she first of all the fact that she has to give him a bottle of tequila is like sorry, which
all right, she's so like weird. Take me back, I brought you an expensive tequila, and he has a client with him and he's like, you go away, I'm dealing with Seema now, and then the woman just gets banished to a different chair.
Again, it's just like they have these ideas, they have to execute them, they come up with the most convoluted way to do that. So basically she decides like, oh, the hairdresser just gives advice that I can take or leave. Okay. So she decides to go out with the random guy again. Random guy proposes, they go in on a club together, which again, I need the comedy. I need him to propose something a little more crazy to be like, oh, this guy's just crazy, than just like, do you want to go in on a club together? I'm like, I don't know. That's not the craziest thing I've heard.
It's the heightened, right? What is the heightened beat here? Like, what we were talking about this with the vaginal cream, right? Where it was like, what is the other thing? What is the thing that he could say here as a suggestion? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do we get to where we're trying to go?
Yeah, I just feel like this man already lives with his ex-wife. Like, I feel like you need to continue to beat that. Like, do they sleep in the same bed? Like, you know what I mean? I just feel like instead it takes this detour, and I get it. It's like he doesn't have money. But like, I don't know. He didn't say, could you loan me $100K for this club? He said, we'll go in 50-50.
Right. It's like, it's kind of weird that it's a business proposal that's kind of out of context and sort of, I think they just could have stuck with exactly what you said with the ex-wife, where she's like, and so we're going to talk about that. Right. And he's like, yeah, we only share a bed sometimes, or something like that. And then she could have been like, okay, never mind, I'm out. And then stomped out. Yeah.
No, this is over. Yeah. It's so weird. Again, he feels like a Gabriel 2.0 to me, where they wrote this guy into season 1 and then they were like, actually we don't like him. So we need to find the most convoluted way to just get him out of the picture. But it's like, we don't have enough screen time for that. So this is what the screen time allows for, which is just he wants to go in on a club together. And even his proposal for the club isn't that weird. I don't know. They're so rich that money means nothing to me. When he's like, can I have $100K?
Yeah, whatever. Like, they spend that much per episode. Also, like, it would have been kind of cute to have the setup be like, do I see red flags too often? Am I too picky? And then have her instincts be right. You know what I mean? Like have it actually come off of like, no, this is a weird situation. And she was actually right. You know what I mean? That actually could have been a cute resolution. Oh, they really can't stick the landing, can they? In any of these?
No. That's definitely what they were going for, but it just gets like fucked in there and is unsalvageable. Then we have, is Naya even in this episode? Oh yeah. She calls the husband. The husband's like, nothing happened yet, which
yikes. So
woof.
It's like basically
Capital
the husband,
yikes.
just for listeners, it's like they're estranged from what I can tell. It's like because they disagree about kids. And so they're like separated, but they're not divorced, right? And they're just sort of like kind of, yeah. So, but she's trying to reconcile. And so she had called him last time and we saw that there was another woman in the room. And when she like asked about it, he insisted nothing happened yet. As in, I have like feelings for this person and I'm attracted to this person and like kind of starting to have this emotional affair with this person. And it's clear to me from the context of their conversation and what Naya says that was not part of the agreement when they separated, was that they were going to see other people. Right? Because like she reacts that way and then also says that someone was hitting on her at a bar and she turned them down because that was their agreement. So he's basically admitting like, I'm thinking of having this affair and I'm tempted by this woman, which like, oh my God.
Well, but then says, oh, we should have a surrogate, which is also crazy. It's like, again, it's like, I don't need a surrogate plot introduced. I mean, it doesn't go anywhere, but I don't need the surrogate for me to be convinced this guy is awful when he already is, to your point, basically asking permission to cheat.
We're done.
Like, I'm over
I already
it.
know he's a villain, but I think but saying that I think pushes the final button for her in a way that obviously you and we didn't need, but maybe Naya needed that in terms of like, because that was the crux of their disagreement, was like, oh, this guy doesn't understand at all. And so this like is not going to work.
I do love the anger scene she does though, where she goes to the apartment and she deandrifies it, as she says, throws everything out. I love the quote, bonfire of the beanies.
Very funny. Very good. Her collage, the mixed media collage.
Again, Again, the paper lantern that they bought in like 1992 or whatever. Again, Karen Pittman serving every scene, given nothing, but serving every scene and just like having like just fractions of screen time. It's so irritating to me. And I wish she had justice for Karen Pittman. Anyway, that's Naya's whole plot line.
And we're done. All right.
Then we go to LTW, which is like less of an LTW and more about her husband and his mother's coming to visit. And his mother is like has her opinions and is a classic mother-in-law where everything has to be perfect.
We've seen these tropes
in
before.
her way. Hundreds of times. I do think she has the sickening line when she sees LTW in that first scene and she goes, I love that she goes, and you just came back from a matinee of The Lion King. And I love LTW's return line, which is, yes, and the show was very good today. Genuinely made me cackle. That was the one time in these 2 episodes that we watched that I genuinely cackled, genuinely made me laugh. The writers podcast makes such a big deal because, you know, they braid the daughter's hair so that she'll be more presentable to the grandma. And the writers podcast was like, it's so important that we show the father also braid the hair. And I was like, literally no one is processing this. And maybe that's just me.
I don't know.
Maybe that's just me coming from my white perspective. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But the writers podcast made it seem like this was the heart of the whole episode, which is kind of insane.
I think anyone that would potentially be affected by this has already checked out of the show. I do not think they are still here. I think we had a discussion about this where we're talking about like representation in TV just as a whole. You know, the things that Marina and I talk about like at brunch. And we were talking about how like I say that I actually prefer a lack of representation over like very poor or insulting representation. So if it's something like this where it's like okay, if the writers are, we're just going to say total. Not saying about and just like that. I'm just in general of a show. If the writers are all white, let's say, if they're all white dudes, it's like I don't actually need them to be the ones who are writing a character that is like, let's say, a Black woman, right? I don't need them to like do an episode like this, which is like kind of about race. I actually don't need their take on it. So when we started this plot, and I can see that that's where they were going, and Marina's going to talk about this in a second. It's when we see that they're trying to hail a cab and none of the cabs are stopping for LTW's husband, played by, again, George Washington. And it's like, okay, we're setting it up for that. And I got nervous because I was like, I actually, once upon a time, maybe I would have been like, oh, that's so great that we're finally seeing episodes and plot lines in this very white show about like non-white experiences. Now, based on what I've seen, when that happened, I was like, I'm actually really nervous about how this is going to get handled.
Yes. For me, I just don't like the feeling that it's tacked on. It also resolves anticlimactically. Like the grandma just comes and they have a chat where she's like, you can't do that. You can't pound on the front of the car. And then LTW makes a joke about how like, you can't get arrested because your mother will blame me for it. And then it's over. It's just like too big of a behemoth for this show. This show can barely talk about women, which is what it's supposed to talk about.
Right.
Like what this show is known for is talking about women having sex.
I would agree. And it's not to say if anyone watched it and disagreed and thought, oh yeah, they handled that well, I'm glad. It's like, I could also see that it's valid. I personally was like, this is kind of weird and a little like not, to Marina's point, didn't feel like fully fleshed out. But which is a shame because like it clearly the cast has gotten more diverse versus like Sex and the City from what I imagine. So it's like there's potential there. I just like I don't really trust these writers with it, and they clearly aren't really comfortable going there. So we don't need to go there. Actually, we can leave that off the table. Are we ready?
We've run the gambit because then we end on.
I've been waiting
Miranda and
all
Jay,
episode to talk about this.
Our favorite couple of all time. So essentially, first of all, it opens on cunnilingus, which love.
No matter who, what context, whatever, Marina and I are always going to give that an A+. That's just
always going to give that an A+. Che has to go rewrite some scenes. So Miranda's alone, I guess. She goes to AA for the first time that we see. I think it is her first time. I love the outfit she wears to AA. I know that's really random, but I made a note of that. She meets this woman whose opening line to her, because the woman's fully tatted.
Yeah, the woman has like 2 tattoo sleeves, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, she's full of tattoos. She comes up to Miranda. She goes, "Oh, like virgin arms. Like I haven't seen those in a while." And I was like, I can't tell if this is real or sarcasm.
Can someone of the tattooed community please tell me if this is a word people use? Virgin arms. Do they say that to strangers?
Again, I think they think this woman.
It is weird to go up to a person again who you just watch in this very vulnerable way in vulnerable space and say, "Nice virgin arms." But it seems to work. Yeah, Miranda seems to respond well to it. So.
Yeah, well, Miranda's having a hard time.
Yeah.
Kind of like how I have my one explain away thing, which is Michael Patrick King thinks this is a thing. My other explain away is like Miranda's having a hard time. Pattern. Like that's just like Miranda's having a hard time. The woman also calls herself an activist, which
okay.
Hall of Fame. Yeah, she says, my husband calls me an activist. And I was like, oh, God. Again, I feel like they were trying to make fun of LA with this woman. And for some reason, it just comes out so weird.
You can make fun of LA. You absolutely can. We will be there for you, especially for a show that's so New Yorky. It's like LA should be the punching bag. And you should all be so on top of this. You're all media people. Like, you should have all of the great LA jokes and bits ready to go. But the best you can do is everyone's lazy. I took an Uber to my bathroom and I'm an activist, nice virgin arms. It's like, there's so much material. And like, this is what you gave us is like nonsense and like nonsense.
Especially because Miranda is like quintessential New York. It's just like, what a missed
A
opportunity. The egg
Oh
was
my God.
really the high note. And it's only gone down
And that
from
was
the
a pretty,
egg.
for a high
The
note,
egg
that was
came
also pretty
too
low.
soon.
It's like not high.
Yeah, also. Che does stand up and Tony Danza's there because Tony Danza's going to play their dad in their sitcom. And this introduces a side plot that I'll just go over quickly, which is that Tony Danza has come too far to be canceled and says he will not play Che's Mexican father. And I actually
think it's funny.
wasn't bothered by this. I thought it was funny.
Hold me closer, Tony Danza.
Hold me closer, Tony Danza. I don't know. I thought Che's reaction was weird. I get that it's like hard when it's your life story, but it's also like that other writer's story. Because in episode 1, when that other writer comes in, it's like, whose story is this? I don't know. But anyway, Tony Danza is lovable and charming, and he's great in
Also,
that
I
scene.
did think it was weird that Che at their stand-up is like, "Hey everyone, here's Tony Danza. He's gonna play my dad in a pilot." It's like I'm not an expert on this, and I do not want to imply I have any insider knowledge on how this kind of process works. Let me know if I'm talking out of my ass and I'm totally wrong. But if you're filming a pilot, that's an early stage to be like pulling up a guy on stage and being like, "He's gonna be my dad." Like, casts change around in pilots, they get totally rewritten, shows get totally redone, they don't get picked up at all. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is a little early to be doing promo.
I feel like, again, Michael Patrick King was a stand-up who worked on
He was
TV
a stand-up.
shows. Okay.
Sorry.
And
Michael
I feel
Patrick
like
King was a stand-up comedian.
Michael Patrick King was a stand-up in the early days. And then he became a writer, and then he worked his way up to producer. And obviously this Sex and the City was his big credit. And he's done other things since then. He did The Comeback, Emily in Paris. But
I'm having an existential crisis. Hang on, can I interrupt? Why?
I know it's jarring because you're like, he should be able to write better stand-up, but alas, here we are.
Sorry, continue. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is how did we? What?
No, you're shook.
That's his background. Oh
yeah,
my
I know
God.
You're shook. Yeah. Doesn't that change everything?
I'm mad all over again. It's like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what were we talking about? I'm so mad all over again. There's no reason for Che to be this horrible. There's no reason. There's no excuse. It is like, not only do you have a stand-up background, so it's like you can't even claim ignorance, but it's like they clearly wanted Che to be likable. Yes, you told me about that's what they said, is like Che should be like, I don't understand why everyone hates Che. There's no reason for Che to be this awful at everything they do. Why? I
can't decide if they are intentionally making Che bad at stand-up, or if this is just like a really bad level of Inception where they think it's good, but it's bad, but it's good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really can't tell or if they're just like lazy about it, if they're just like, and then we'll put the stand-up in later. Like, I don't know. But what I will say is just like all around, it's clear that Michael Patrick King has not been a peasant in a while, because exactly, like, nobody talks about pilots. First of all, it's like NDA. Second of all, you don't even know if it's going to go to TV. And third of all, it's like so much in the air. It's one thing to be like, my friend Tony Danza, or like Tony Danza and I are working on a project together. But the way that Che goes around town being like, my pilot, I'm rich, I have money. It's just like, where is this? And it's like, Michael Patrick King is like, oh, that's how pilots work. And it's like, he forgot. It's like how they say that when you go through a painful experience, you like forget how painful it was, because your brain like tries to move past it. And then and that's why people will be like, oh, it's not so bad. And then you do it and you're like, it was terrible. Like wisdom teeth, right? Like
giving birth.
I remember my wisdom teeth experience being, or giving birth. Like people are like, oh, it's fine. It's like, no, it was really bad for you in the moment. Your brain has done some math to undo that. And I feel like that's Michael Patrick King. He's like, oh, pilots just happen and then people are rich. And it's like, No, that's not really in 2023. No, maybe in 1999
Right.
for sure.
Right. Yeah, I think that is the most logical take. Thank you for calming me down. I was at the ledge, and I think you brought me back down. I think that's the most logical explanation for why this man is specifically writing experiences that he should have insider knowledge about, and yet doesn't seem to, and like seems to get them wrong all the time. Is like he has forgotten. He's been away for too long. He hasn't been in it.
He's been away from the peasants. But anyway, that kind of wraps up Che's plotline for now. Then back to Miranda, the activist invites her to do a beach cleanup. She goes to the beach cleanup. I also love the negative guy at the beach cleanup.
Can I talk about
He's my favorite.
That scene, explain the negative guy and that scene, because this is, I think, where the pieces had started to come together for me about like this show is the anti-television, like right? Is like okay, so
go off.
What's happening in this scene is that she has gone with the activist who has invited her. Like the activist is like, we're going to go clean a beach and save the planet. Would you like to join? And Miranda's like, oh my God, that sounds great. So she ends up at this like beach. She doesn't really seem to know where she is. And they're all picking up trash. Naya calls her during this scene. And this is when Naya's doing the scene that we were just talking about where she's throwing out all the stuff. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of seems like drunk almost. She's sort of like having a moment or just having an inspiration. Like she's just emotional. Okay. And she's calling Miranda on the phone and she's telling her, this is what my husband said to me. This is what he's done to me. I'm going through a moment. She's going through it, right? If your friend calls you in this state, you stop what you're doing and you like talk to your friend. Yes. So no.
No.
So what happens is Miranda just sort of sits there kind of on the phone at first being like, oh my God, that's crazy. And then she notices this man who's also there, part of the crew cleaning the trash, is staring at her and looks kind of like disgusted, almost like he's sort of like giving her a judgy look. And they're kind of staring at each other. And it's like kind of like a comedy beat. And you think what's going to be coming is that either the man is going to say something that's going to be funny, or maybe he's just a creep. You would expect something like this because you're a human being and you've seen television, and that's what we're set up to believe is going to happen. But instead, Miranda decides to say, yeah, that's so much, Naya. I'm sorry, I can't talk right now because environmentalists and cell phones don't really mix. So I'm going to have to go. Sorry, goodbye. And then she hangs up the phone. Pause for a second. What does that mean? I've never heard that in my life. Environmentalists and cell phones don't mix. So like that was the conclusion. And then hangs up on her friend having an emotional crisis and then says to the guy something like, hi, how are you doing? Like to try and I guess like be friendly. And the guy immediately says, I'm doing horrible. Nothing that we're doing is making a difference. Cleaning up the trash on this beach, it's like taking care of a corpse. We're all going to burn in a fiery death anyway. And she says something like, oh, that's pleasant, and like looks disgusted and walks away. Again, as a human being who has like had interactions with other human beings, I don't know why this is what he says to her. I don't know why he was staring at her, waiting for her to get off the phone so he could say, we're all going to die in a fiery death. But it plays it as if that's like just a normal interaction that happened. And also then Miranda doesn't immediately call back her friend and be like, never mind, this guy's a psycho, let's talk. Like she just is like, oh, okay, he seems annoying, and then hangs up the phone. And I think we've seen throughout this episode, things that should be funny are not treated as funny. Things that are really not funny are treated as like a joke. The characters that are supposed to be funny are not. Like the setup doesn't happen. We build up. We drop the plot. We have the most interesting actress and interesting side plot character who gets 2 minutes of screen time. Everything is the opposite of like what you would expect a television show to be constructed as. Like, do you know what I'm saying? It feels. So here's my theory. It just can't be an accident. It has to be on purpose. There has to be meaning. I think this is a surrealist project by Michael Patrick King, and he is out to be like, this is the opposite of television. We are going to do the most basic plots and sitcom-y plots, and then we're going to resolve them in the most insane ways. We're going to have people talk in non sequiturs. We're going to have plots that go nowhere because like this is the anti-TV show. Like it has to be on purpose. I think this was where I had my like come to Jesus moment and like levitated off the couch because I was like, I
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
I can't handle this show thinking that this was like supposed to be good. I think I've come onto the side of it where I'm like, they know what they're doing. This was the scene that broke me. It wasn't like it was particularly earth shattering, but I think after watching this full episode, I think this was the moment where I was like, not a single thing that happened in this scene was like a logical next step for the conversation that was happening.
Yes. First of all, round of applause, because what a beautiful microcosm for what this whole thing is. Because that is basically what you just sat here and explained is basically, yeah, that's the secret to And Just Like That. And just like that, everything's fucking random and nothing makes any sense anymore. And also just, it's like, because they're so focused on how do we get from A to B, it's just like, okay, well, now we're doing this. And it's so funny because I'm so used to it at this point. Like nothing affects me anymore, that I didn't even process it. I did process cell phones and environmentalists because I was like, what? When your best friend calls you and is like, my husband is not only emotionally cheating on me, getting ready to fuck another woman, he also proposed that I get a surrogate for a baby. You're like, whoa, I have to absolutely stop. But again, of course, because they're obsessed with like, we got to move. We got to keep going forward with this plot. It's like, oh, no,
yeah,
we're
Miranda
just gonna shelf that.
is not going to respond to that.
Miranda's too busy to deal with that.
As a human who had empathy would, she has to respond as a character who needs to get us to point B, which is this funny line about the world blowing up. We need to get there. So like, let's hang up on the friend and let's get to the funny guy. I mean, I think it's also part of the problem that Naya's not friends with any of them except for Miranda. So no one else feasibly could go talk to her.
That's something that they talk about in the writers podcast is like season 1 is like, okay, we have to introduce all these new characters and like explain why they're friends with, like why Che is friends with Carrie, why Seema is friends with Carrie. And then their mission for season 2 was to try and get them to hang out with each other. And it's just like, it's too much. It's too much. And like, that's why Naya's got to get off that phone quick, because we got to get to Miranda losing her phone so she can have a crisis about not having Che's number, which like, I don't have my partner's number memorized. If my phone is taken, I cannot call my partner's number.
Yeah.
I do not know it. I only know my home landline, which is defunct.
Yeah. Yes.
And my parents' cell phones.
That's all I remember.
I remember my sister's cell phone.
My high school friends' landline phones, even the people I don't talk to anymore. I can still tell you what their home landline is, because that's when you learn what a phone number is. So I actually don't think this is a real crisis for her to be having about like, I don't even know your phone number. You actually don't really need to, honestly.
It also like comes out of nowhere. Like, I'm missing the beat of 3 here. Like the first scene we see them, Che's just like, I gotta go right. And like, it's not that Miranda stumbles across something she didn't know about Che before. Then there's this phone number thing, which is very relatable. Like, I do not know anyone's number.
Background how we get to this point. After the cleanup, Miranda realizes that she's lost her phone, which is a problem because she was going to use it to call an Uber to get home because she doesn't know where she is. So Miranda loses her phone, goes up to a couple of like nice stoner surfer boys who give her their phone. And the only number she remembers is Carrie's, who then gives her Che's. And so that's how we get to this like complicated sitcom-y beat.
Which, first of all, let me also backtrack. The fact that they're blasting Hotel California in the background the whole time, which I hate. As Californians do. And then I feel like, again, these surfers, there's something about the surfers that's like trying to make me feel like, oh, this is a comedy.
They seemed like,
but it's like not quite jiving in where I'm like, this is funny. It's just like, it feels really random. It almost feels like surfers interrupted the shoot.
Throw them in.
And then they were like, oh, let's just keep them in here.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, which is definitely not how that went down.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was supposed to be funny because there is a kind of cute moment where one of them keeps offering her a blunt. And then at one point she says something like, can you please stop offering me that? And it was like sort of funny and sweet. Like, so I think it was supposed to be a comedy beat, but maybe there were more beats that were left on the. That is actually a too generous read. No, never mind. There were never better beats that were left on the cutting room floor. This is exactly how it was written.
It's just so awkward. And then she is able
With
to
who?
hitch a
With
ride
who?
with
Well-
Che's friend. With who? Well, first we introduces Che's friend, and as we learn, he's Lyle, Che's current husband. Because although they are separated, they are too lazy to get divorced.
What
which
a thing to say.
I love that.
And
what a thing to say.
If you know what, if I were a human being writing a show, this would be where the episode happens. Is Miranda gets stranded coming out of AA or whatever, and then gets in a car with Che's husband. And then the entire ride is lots of tension and awkward moments and double entendres and awkwardly saying things because the husband doesn't know who Miranda is. Miranda has just learned that Che is married. And then the ride is the episode. Like, this is where the tension is. And this scene is maybe 30 seconds long.
You're so right that I never even thought about that, but you're right. That would have been such a good episode because then it's like Miranda or plotline in the episode because it's like Miranda being like, do I tell him? Do I not tell him? Like, you know, and then like he could say random facts about Che that are weird. And then Miranda could be like, there's all this stuff I don't know about you. Then that works. Cause it's like, I'm just making stuff up now. Che's favorite food is shrimp. Like, you know what I mean? Just like, I didn't know this and this and this. And then Che can be like, all that stuff is dumb.
Yeah.
Instead it's just like, I didn't know you had a husband. And it's like, okay, well, to be fair, like, that is a big thing. And clearly Che doesn't give a shit about it anymore. So like, I don't know. It's just like, it makes it so much more confusing. I totally agree with you. That would have been so much better.
Yeah.
And we could have just cut all this beach crap.
Cut everything in the beach. At some point, Naya calls her and it's emergency. So she asks the husband to pull over and then she's on the side of the road, like talking to Naya and they have an actual conversation. And then, you know, she says, I gotta go. I'm with Che's husband. And Naya goes, what? And Miranda goes, I'll explain later and hangs up and gets back in the car. Literally.
And that's a fast way to get Naya off the phone.
We did it. We wrote the episode.
Wow, we did it. We wrote the episode as we do every time. Then Che and Miranda reunite and Che tells a story about Tony Danza, does a horrific Italian accent. That's a crime against my people. Miranda says, I don't know anything about you. I don't even know how this resolves. Don't they just kind of go like, whatever?
And I'm going to give the show... I don't know why I'm giving it any benefit of the doubt. I'm going to expect that this plot will continue because Miranda doesn't look satisfied, but she lets it go. Like Che is like, I've had such a hard day. And then immediately starts like nuzzling her neck. Like,
oh yeah.
There seems to be a pattern here of like Miranda being upset and Che tries to like get through it with like sex or like physical intimacy of some kind. So like that is kind of where this episode ended is Miranda's like, I didn't even know you had a husband. And then they say, oh, I'm just like too lazy to get a divorce. And then nuzzle Miranda and they're like, I've had a hard day. Miranda doesn't look happy. So I think we'll see more of this, hopefully. You are making me upset because your face is telling me that maybe we won't. Why won't we? Marina, this is what I'm saying. The show ends on a shot of Miranda looking sad into the distance. It implies to me, a viewer, that we will see more of this because we see that Miranda's not satisfied with this conclusion. ... This is an ellipses. This is a cliffhanger. You're telling me that they're not going to address this major problem ever again. Are we going to even talk about the husband again? Actually, I guess you can tell me.
I'm not going to say that they don't address this problem, and I'm not going to say that they don't address the husband. I am just going to say I think my face crack is it's just not done well. Obviously, their relationship continues, and we discuss their relationship further to our horror. But I agree with you. They set up something interesting here, which is Miranda's trying to get on a deeper level, and Che kind of won't let them. And that is kind of the crux of their relationship. And they kind of, I'm curious on the rewatch if I'll feel different, but on the first time through, that exploration of that feels very rushed.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. Like everything else. Chop, chop, chop. We gotta get through the
we
show.
got places to be.
Pick up the pace.
That's all right. All right.
Well, I think it's time for our famous segments. This time we'll end on the positive. So we'll start negative. What is your get them of this episode? What's your thing that you're like, get it, get them, absolutely arrest that person?
I mean,
or
obviously,
thing or concept?
I told you my breaking point was Miranda hanging up on Naya. I mean, it's hard though to also like single that out because honestly, a lot of people were awful to each other in this. I'm actually going to get them to an underrated moment here, which is the fact that everyone has lost their jobs because Carrie did not read an ad about vaginal cream. As discussed, the insanity of it, and then also like heart goes out to those people. Best of luck on the job market.
And they didn't get severance either, so rough. I'm going to say my get them is Gabriel from MI7 saying wet ass pussy with full That's body
fair.
projection and form. I think I was like kind of disgusted. I was disgusted at the thought that he could write this vaginal dryness ad. It just, the whole thing was just like, gave me the ick. And I'm mad at just the overcomplication of how much engineering it took for Carrie to dump this guy. It's like, my dad is an engineer and he often he's wonderful. No complaints against Marina. We stand. Like, I remember when he got his car and iPhones were becoming a thing. He didn't have a place to put his iPhone in the car. And so he went to the hardware store and bought PVC pipe, which is like what they use for like toilets. And he built like an iPhone holder out of PVC pipe. And my mom was like, why didn't you just buy an iPhone holder? They sell them on Amazon that are like built for cars. And my dad was like, oh, well, I wanted to do this. And that's what this show feels like to me. It's like there's always an easier, more interesting answer, and they always choose the convoluted, complicated one. So that to me is modeled by Gabriel from MI7 saying, wet ass pussy. So Emily, this episode then, what is your release the Kraken? What is your positive, I want more of this from this episode?
The scene where the three of them it's like Charlotte, Anthony, and someone else are all having brunch. I think LTW. They're all having brunch together. I think it's the only time we ever see anyone in this episode doing the brunch thing, the Sex and the City thing. Yes. And characters interacting with each other in person. And it's good. Like it's fine. And it's the fact that with the non sequiturs in this, like there are a couple lines that they'll say randomly that don't get responded to. It actually works in this context because it makes Charlotte just look thoughtless. Like the fact that someone will randomly try to change the subject. There were a couple moments where Anthony will randomly say something, or LTW will like take out her phone and be like, look at this. Like they have moments where they say something and then Charlotte just immediately goes back to her problems. And it actually works, because it just makes Charlotte look like she's so wrapped up in her thing. She's not even paying attention. And then also Anthony is great. Has his one-liners. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he had some actually funny lines in this brunch scene. And it was like, this was fine. Release the Kraken. Get me that. Get me these three at brunch and I'm fine. I'm fine. I can watch that. So that was my moment.
I agree. I would watch that spinoff. Unfortunately, we know the show is not getting any spinoffs. I would say my release the Kraken is Power of Privilege. If it's treated as comedy.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Power of Privilege as a pure comedy beat was great. And I still have one episode of season 2 left to go. But they kind of drop this plot and maybe they bring it back in the last episode of season 2. Spoiler alert. So sorry. And I want more.
This plot being more Lily? with the song.
Lily and like the songwriting stuff, I wanted more, and they kind of sideline it. Spoiler alert, like most of the things we've seen today. And I want that spinoff. I want the spinoff that is private school girls in Upper East Side Manhattan publishing songs. Oh wait, that's just life.
Oh wait, that spinoff is called Reality.
Oh wait, but I just thought that was to die for. Again, Anthony has great lines. Harry has great lines. Big fan.
Yes.
Well, that was And Just Like That, season 2, episode 2. We'll see you next week for episode 3.
We're only 20% of the way there.
Hey, on season 2. Then we got to do season 1. Pray for us. Send donations to Venmo. All right.
Thoughts and prayers.
Bye.